Good afternoon, I'm Vashan Brown with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. The news that a nurse has contracted COVID-19 has come as no surprise to the president of the Nurses Association of Jamaica, NAJ, Carmen Johnson. While speaking with TVJ News today, Ms. Johnson said she hoped it would have not been so soon. However, it was expected that a healthcare worker would have contracted the virus.
The challenge, I think, that arises is that not many persons recognize that over the years we have always been successful to all the contagious diseases that we have been treating, and many of our employees have had diseases that they have contracted on the job, because by being a virus, just like the flu that a patient would come in with and you'd have gotten it. So whether or not they're on the front line or in the community, it is something that is expected, though we are hoping that nobody would have come down with it so soon. And so it's not anything for anybody to be overly concerned about. So once they are positive, then they'll be isolated just like the regular populace.
It was revealed late last night that a 45-year-old woman who is a healthcare worker was among 4 new cases of COVID-19. She was a contact of a confirmed case. Now, the number of coronavirus cases in Jamaica now stands at 36. The government is now seeking to fast-track the National Identification System NIDS Act through Parliament. It says this act will be able to help identify persons who are to receive the benefits that are available, especially with the coronavirus pandemic. But the opposition People's National Party says it will be watching what the government does so that the constitutional rights of citizens are not jeopardized. More in this report.
The National Identification System NIDS legislation, which has been on the table for some time, is being looked at during the COVID-19 pandemic as a solution to effectively manage resources. Speaking at the press briefing last Friday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness said the administration will be seeking to fast-track the implementation of NIDS. He says the act, when implemented, will provide an individual with a unique identification from birth to death. But in this pandemic, how would it work?
If we had the national system of identification, then it would be far easier for the government to provide this kind of individualized benefit system that would be to the benefit of all. The truth is we now don't have that system. We are behind in its implementation. We still have new legislation to bring to the cabinet and to the parliament, but we cannot waste a crisis.
But past attempts to implement NIDS failed after the Constitutional Court in April 2019 ruled that the previous law was null and void, unconstitutional, and having no legal effect. Under NIDS, Jamaicans would get a unique identification number or card to do business.
We have found that the mandatory requirement deprived the person of choice. That is, they were not free to decide whether to participate in the scheme or not. It was not a voluntary scheme. In addition to that, there was the compulsory, not just the compulsory nature, but also the fact that it was backed up by the risk of criminal prosecution.
Speaking to TVJ News Monday morning, General Secretary of the PNP, Gillian Robinson, says the opposition will have its eyes on NIDS despite the COVID-19 pandemic.
We are going to act in the national interest, but we are not going to support anything which is inconsistent with our Constitution. The judgment by the Supreme Court was very clear in terms of how the government should move forward with new legislation. As I said, we have only been privy to one consultation with the NIDS Secretariat. If this is something that the government wants to fast track, then they need to bring in not just the opposition, but there are many other stakeholders who had concerns about NIDS prior to this. And you need to have the consultation if you want smooth passage through both houses of parliament. We would have been further down the road with NIDS if the government had adopted a consultative approach in the first instance.
The plan is to use the information gathered from NIDS to establish a database of Jamaican citizens and other individuals ordinarily resident in Jamaica. It will be used as a primary source of identity assurance and verification. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
The People's National Party is calling for Prime Minister Andrew Holness to declare a state of public emergency to put an end to the public debate about whether the proper constitutional procedure was followed in declaring Jamaica as a disaster area. Constitutional lawyer Dr. Lloyd Barnett said the Holiness Administration did not follow procedure in making the declaration which enabled it to exercise emergency powers, including the quarantining of communities. Opposition Justice spokesperson Senator Donna Scott Motley says there must be a united effort to protect all Jamaicans at this time.
I think that it is of the greatest importance now in this unprecedented situation that everybody be on the same page, that there be harmony in our approach, and that is very concerning to me. I want the government to succeed. If the government succeeds in how it handles this matter, everybody succeeds. And that is why I think it is critical that the public support it, that the public supports the measures. Now, it is very important that whatever we do within the context of the Constitution. And I was extremely concerned when the Attorney General says this is not a time for niceties, because the Constitution is not a nicety. It is the supreme law that governs everything that we do.
President of the Small Business Association of Jamaica, Hugh Johnson, has expressed doubts about the $25 billion stimulus package announced recently by the Finance Ministry. This following the downturn of the local economy due to the COVID-19. The details in this report.
More than 50% of small businesses have closed their doors as the local economy grapples with the COVID-19 crisis. That's according to President of the Small Business Association of Jamaica, Hugh Johnson. Recently, Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark announced that his ministry will be providing a $25 million stimulus package to help businesses cope during the crisis. But Mr. Johnson believes that the package will have little effect on the establishments based on the downturn in the economy. In an interview with TVJ News, Mr. Johnson expressed doubt that the initiative will help drive economic activity even as the country grapples with the fallout from the coronavirus.
I think we are misguided by calling it a stimulus package. It's really an aid instead of a stimulus package, because you couldn't be curtailing business and cease operation and call that injection stimulus. What we would want to the stimulus is after this debacle would have passed, for any governmental assistance, then to get you back on your feet, we could call stimulus. But right now, I think we should call it aid instead of stimulus, because you can't be stimulating something that isn't moving.
Additionally, he believes the situation facing the small business sector is worsening.
Put it this way, it is rough, and I would encourage all to try and see how best that they can manage. But at this juncture, all the announcements so far is not showing any good light on the most vulnerable in the society, and that is where we need to focus on, I believe, because none of the announcements so far will really reach the most vulnerable. But it's bad, and we expect it to be bad because we need to curtail movements and activities. So if you would not have that reserve, you'll be exposed at this time.
Prince Moore, TVJ News.
And we take a break on the midday news. We'll be right back. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Continuing the news now. It's the responsibility of employers to help protect their staff during the COVID-19 crisis. That's the view of General Secretary at the National Workers Union of Jamaica, Granville Valentine. Mr. Valentine says if employers are not following the guidelines set by the government, workers have the right to take a stance against the practice. He was speaking on TVJ's Smile Jamaica this morning.
It can't be that you go after an extra dollar at this time, so you have 15, 20 people breathing in each other's back or standing closer than the 3 to 6 feet. It must be that the employer ensure that that happens. And where workers find themselves working in this situation, that worker has a right to say, this is not right, I cannot work in that condition, I should not work in that condition. And the employer cannot penalize such a worker for taking that stand.
Energy Minister Favour Williams says any decision to temporarily remove General Consumption Tax GCT from electricity will have to be made by the Finance Ministry. On Saturday, the Jamaica Public Service Company, JPS, called for suspension of taxes on bills and fuel during the coronavirus crisis. However, Mrs. Williams notes that the rate of General Consumption Tax was recently reduced.
First of all, want Jamaicans to recall that the first 150 kilowatt hours of electricity does not attract GCT. And also, within the context of the $25 billion stimulus package, remember that the finance minister did reduce GCT from 16.5% to 15%, starting April 1 on a lot of items, well, the items that had the 16.5%, including, electricity for commercial clients and so forth.
The man behind the voice note claiming that Westmoreland had been placed on shutdown due to the coronavirus has been charged. 37-year-old Xavier Patterson of Westmoreland was charged with public mischief. Patterson was listed as a person of interest after he released the voice note, which falsely claimed that Attorney General Marlene Malahoo Fort had announced the shutdown. He turned himself in, accompanied by his attorney, to detectives at the Savannah Lamar police station yesterday. At a news conference on Friday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness said the authorities were pursuing leads to find the maker of the voice note.
Now that is the heights of public mischief, and the law covers that. And indeed, I have passed the voice note to the relevant authority, who advised me that they have been monitoring, and they have already picked up that voice note, and that very soon we will see some action. I say this because there is a sense that people can break the law with impunity. I think the AG would say there are those who are immune to the law. Well, let me tell you, we are going to enforce the law.
Shrimp vendors in Middle Quarters, St. Elizabeth are appealing for assistance from the government as they experience a slowdown in business due to the COVID-19. More in this report.
Middle Quarters, a usual pit stop for locals and visitors for shrimp once they're in St. Elizabeth. But since COVID-19, the vendors are left hoping for better days as sales have taken a nosedive.
It affect me bad, sir, because I have 5 children and no car not up on me only survival this.
Things just bad and nothing not turn up, no car not tap, just not go on.
Due to the reduced number of buyers, they've had to change their approach to the business.
We used to do like £3 a day, sometime 4. We only can do now £1. And if we don't sell out that pound, we have to carry it home and cook our next pound.
We cut it straight down. Because the money problem everywhere. Everybody feeling it now, everybody. So there is no money.
While few have ventured out to try and secure $1, there are others who have given up.
At 2 weeks now, I don't come out and sell no shrimps. Because I have my shrimp, I have to just throw it away. Because I don't say I'm really afraid, but I'm just cautious. So I prefer to stay at home. Nothing I'm going, I prefer to stay in my yard, lie down, sleep and read my Bible and pray.
And those who ventured out aren't taking any chances.
We don't go too close. When we are collect the money, we have to wash our hands. And basic thing. Anything you do, could just keep your hand clean. Keep everything clean, your surrounding, everything.
The vendors were quick to point out that they endorsed the government's decision to restrict movement so far, but the bills are piling up. So with no other option, they remain hopeful.
I got in my vest sometime, I can't reach up and make me sell one bag of sin, I thank him. I don't lie about that. Since I come from man, I don't see nothing count up, but I still sit down. You understand? By tomorrow, I off. Yeah, so tough is it. It's me and my little bar that make every opinion. You have to have a luck. Don't look good.
So with what looks to be a long road to normalcy, they're making an appeal.
So we need little help.
Please, Mr. Honest, see what you can do for the Middle Quarter shrimp vendors. We are suffering bad.
Kelisha Williams, TVJ News.
News overseas now. Spain overtook China's total number of coronavirus cases on Monday. Business leaders and regional authorities have criticized the government's decision to further restrict the movement of people and keep non-essential workers at home until mid-April. Overnight, the death toll of 812 people brought total fatalities in Spain to 7,340. The number of infections rose by 8% to 85,195 today, compared with 81,470 in China, where the disease originated at the end of 2019. Time now for sports. Tokyo 2020 President Yoshihiro Mori has warned international federations that deciding who covers the additional costs arising from the postponement of the Olympic Games will be a major challenge. In a letter to the 33 federations on the Tokyo 2020 program, Mori referenced the financial implications of delaying the Games until at least the summer of 2021. Japan invested US $12 billion in the run-up to the Games, and IOC President Thomas Bach had warned that the price tag will further rise. Mori also issued a rallying cry to deliver the Olympic and Paralympic Games Tokyo 2020 next year and show that humans had triumphed over the coronavirus. The International Olympic Committee and the Japanese organizers last week postponed the July 24 to August 9 event due to the coronavirus pandemic, the first such delay in the modern Games' 124-year history. And organizers have announced that the Tokyo Olympic Games will run from July 23 to August 8 next year. The Games were originally set for July this year, but as I mentioned, the coronavirus pandemic has delayed the Games by 12 months. And that's the Midday News. I'm Vashon Brown. Join us at 7 for Primetime News Package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon and a great week.